That brings us to our albums.
Jacob's time is here.
Jacob,
I'm
Your
here.
time
It's been quiet for a while.
I'm here. I'm awake. We're on albums. So
Yes,
Silent
sir.
Planet have dropped their 5th studio album titled SUPERBLOOM.
Take it away, Super Boomer.
That's me. Yeah, I had expectations for this album, and I thought it was going to be a lot more melodic
Mhm.
than what we got based on the singles. That being said, when I first heard it and I heard Offworld, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Because I think Offworlder is a great opener, and I think it gets you ready for the album in like the most perfect way. Just like the instrumental outro to the song is like, okay, this is what you got, and now you have time to process it and think about it while you're being relentlessly pounded in the ears. Collider, like once I heard the transition from Collider or Offworlder to Collider, I was like, oh, this song is way better than it was as a single. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. We get to Euphoria. Oh, it sounds a little bit like Spirit Boxes, and so far so good. Get to Dreamwalker, and I think it's my favorite non-single on the album. Probably the heavy. I don't know.
Maybe as in the heaviest non-single.
Yeah,
I would say so. Maybe besides,
I think it has the
Nexus.
best breakdown too.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. 100%.
Antimatter we know is a banger. Signal is all right.
It grew on me. I'm not gonna lie.
It did grow on me, and I really love how it transitions into Anunnaki. But after Anunnaki, this album falls a little flat for me. I really love everything up to Anunnaki, and then it just really falls off. Like, I don't think the Overgrowth or Nexus are bad. It's just, I don't know. I don't know.
I think you and I are almost on the exact same page with this. It needed to be more melodic, I think. And it feels weird saying that about like a body of art, like, oh no, it needed to be this. But for
just see, we get that in SUPERBLOOM, and then I don't like it. It's really interesting because I think SUPERBLOOM is an amazing idea, but I don't think Garrett is good enough at singing to pull it off.
Not yet. And I what I will say is I really think that he has improved leaps and bounds above where he was. And I think that it succeeds a lot throughout this album. I'm probably a little higher on SUPERBLOOM as a song than it sounds like you are. And I think that for what it is...
I think SUPERBLOOM's the worst song on the album.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could identify one. I can. I think mine might be Euphoria. Is yours Anunnaki, Jake?
Signal.
Oh, okay. That checks out.
Euphoria's okay as well. I think Euphoria's the second worst.
I listen to this album front to back, and I am sold on the sound and the vibe. And I think that the only thing that might take me out of it, ironically, is Antimatter.
Really?
It feels a little disjointed to me when I hear everything else. I don't get the same vibe.
I kind of get that. Antimatter is very different from everything else on the album. I also feel like Antimatter's, like at this point, Antimatter is one of the best metalcore songs of the year.
Easily. I guess if you can even call it metalcore, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
But individually here, like for instance, for me, like the riff on Collider, the riff and breakdown in Dreamwalker, the if you can even call it breakdown in Antimatter, like just that riff, everything. Individually, there are so many moments on here that I could say this is like my favorite thing of the year. This is my top 5 of the year. And I love, for instance, the ambience on like Re-entry into Superbloom and in Superbloom in general, Lights Off the Lost Coast into Offworlder. I get the story. I get the vibe.
I don't even get the story. I know Antimatter is about their car crash last year when they were on tour. But other than that, I don't really understand
as
As
far as I know, the entire album, except maybe Signal because it was released beforehand, is entirely about in some way or another, their encounter with death and how it impacted them and their lives moving forward, knowing that could have been it for all of them. Yeah. Not that it's a concept album or anything necessarily, but that that's the overall theme.
Anunnaki couldn't be about that either, because they were singing that song on that tour that they crashed, I'm pretty sure.
And I have no fucking clue what's going on here. And you know what? That's another thing, I guess, to your point, is like sonically across this album, there is a vibe to it. Give me the story. Maybe more. Maybe. Am I too dumb for this album? Like, is that? I've been too dumb for some Silent Planet lyrics in the past, but like, I'm just not. Something about this album I'm not getting, and it's really frustrating because, like you said, like I had high expectations going into this, and I thought that this was going to be easy album of the year. Like, I thought this was going to be it, and I was kind of mad. I'm like, damn, my album of the year is going to have to drop in November. I won't get a ton of time with it. And then I listened to it, and I listened to it again. I give another listen. I'm like, well, it's good. I like it, but
it's not
something's
mind blowing.
No, and for what they were doing and the way they were innovating, something like Antimatter, and just all the pieces of the singles came together, and I thought, fuck, this is going to be awesome, and it just ended up being good to great. And I don't know if I would really. I mean, there are things that I would like change, obviously, for my own personal taste, but like, I can't even say that anything is necessarily wrong with the album. It's just not clicking the way I wanted it to.
It's not. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think, personally, for me, a good closer really helps an album, and this doesn't have it for me. I think it starts phenomenally, though. Like, yeah, it's
Absolutely.
just
I want to give some credit to Lights Off the Lost Coast as like an interlude into Offworlder. I feel like that really set the vibe.
Yeah.
And like the tone to start. As much as I don't love the album as a whole, I mean, hell, this got me to add 9 out of 10 songs from a Silent Planet album into my playlist. I can't really distinguish between them all very much. I've only gone back to the ones that aren't Antimatter and Collider a handful of times. But I was able to enjoy a majority of a Silent Planet album, which is not something I've been able to say in the past. So
we'll take it.
I definitely need to go into the lyrics, like especially of like Superbloom, where
for sure
I feel like Garrett even said like that's his favorite song ever, and I'm just here sitting like, yeah, that's the fucking worst song on the album.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly disagree with you. I think it's a great closer. I like it a lot. I think that it does fall a little flat at places, but
I think it's too ambitious, and it doesn't work. I don't. I think it's good, but Garrett, like his vocal style, it doesn't fit. That's what it is for me.
See, I mean, I don't know. It's not that. I think that vocal style works with kind of the airy. Whatever, like he doesn't need to hit a high note or be more impressive vocally because of the vibe of the album as a whole. I don't know. For whatever reason, I really like it as both a closer and a standalone song to like listen to in a playlist. Do I think it's as strong of a closer as Iridescent, for instance? No. It makes me feel something in the context of the album, but it doesn't get me feeling the same way that something like Iridescent does. And that's the hold up for me, is with everything that builds up to Superbloom, I want it to hit harder as a song and as a closer than it
Yes.
does, and it does a good job, but doesn't do a phenomenal job.
By the way, since we've made it this far, well, why don't we give the definition of what a super bloom is?
Facts. Do you have it pulled up, or do you want me to read
Yes,
it from
I
their
do.
Spotify
I did.
bio?
Oh, is it in their bio?
Yeah.
I have it pulled up. A super bloom is a rare desert botanical phenomenon in California and Arizona, in which an unusually high proportion of wildflowers whose seeds have lain dormant in desert soil germinate and blossom at roughly the same time. The phenomenon is associated with an unusually wet, rainy season. So, I don't know how that ties in, but it sounds cool.
I got the pleasure of seeing a super bloom last year in California. I guess earlier this year, technically, when I went out to visit, and it was beautiful. And I think maybe in the context of almost dying and then not, that maybe Nexus is like that moment, and then Reentry is coming back into the perspective that you have after, and Super Bloom is the new lease on life, kind of more beautiful blooming that you have after an experience like that. That's my best guess. With that said, that still doesn't show me how the rest, like Signal, Anunnaki, even I guess Euphoria, kind of to an extent, tie into that motif.
I don't
wish-
get the overgrowth either.
I don't really either. I could justify it within the explanation that I have, but like it doesn't. I'm left confused by this album, but usually if I'm confused by an album like this, I want to take the time to look more into it and figure it out. For whatever reason, this isn't giving me that same draw that makes me want to do that. It is still objectively, in my opinion, a very, very good album.
Yeah.
And I love what they did with it. I think that overall, this is probably my favorite Silent Planet album. I just wish it was more because my expectations were higher.
Can I say that? I don't know if I can.
What would be it for you?
I think I like Iridescent more.
I think Iridescent's peaks are probably higher for me. Sound Asleep, Transit the Night, Alive as a House Fire, Panopticon, yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't
It's
know.
hard.
It is. It is. Two very good albums. But C'est la vie. This, if nothing else, the sonic changes here make me excited for the next Silent Planet album after this. Between this and Iridescent, I am.
No, who said last time?
Yeah. Well, I think that transfer is present here. I think that they're building on their sound. I'm not fully sold on it yet, but I'm closer than I was.
We have Garrett singing now, which is
exactly. New. And he'll just keep. The more he performs live, the more he'll practice it, the better he'll get, and the more he can employ that on the next album. If he so chooses, I guess. But it seems to be the vibe they're going towards.